Hey there, loved ones. Dana, otherwise known as Dana Spirit Butterfly here. And today I'm in the Mullumbimby Community Gardens. We decided to take this energy forecast outside because why not? The weather is still really beautiful here in the Northern Rivers in New South Wales, Australia. And also sometimes it's really nice just to get outside and to be in a landscape which feels supportive and communitarian. And so this video is an energy forecast for the next lunar cycle. We like to do them on the lunar cycles in support of the sacred feminine rising, which basically involves the return of us to the remembering of our cyclic natures, so that we're not so particular about straight lines and moving in linear directions and becoming upset and maybe traumatized by how unsuccessful we are in life, when really, when we take a few steps back and recognize that our energies are impacted by more than just the straight lines, more than just the goals or the directions that we've been told we're supposed to embody. And instead we start to listen differently, to allow space to process feelings and sensations like grief and trauma and anger, big one, particularly for women typically. Men as well, sorry, forgive me, men, if you're watching. Different storyline, but similar vein. These types of energies need to be moved in order for us to reach that new alignment that we're always talking about. So when we talk about the new alignment, we're talking about the recognition of the fullness of the human condition, of the reality, if you will, that involves not just the rational logic aspects of our structural mechanical AI system, but also encompasses the creative drive, the inspirational drive, those parts of us that are maybe chaotic and a little bit misunderstood. When I land on misunderstood, Spirit is asking me to share with you that misunderstandings is a lot of is the reason why so many of us stress. Misunderstanding is really one of the biggest things that we need to create space for in order to move forwards towards a timeline that is supportive and nourishing for not just ourselves, but also for the greater community. And Spirit is also bringing me back to this remembering also that when we act in service to self, there is a part of that helps to reinforce the systems inside of us that feel confident enough to move forwards and to forge instead of follow. And when I say forge instead of follow, you know, the new communities won't be built from just absenting out of your true direction or your true north or your true calling. The new communities will only thrive when we acknowledge that in order to have a different life, we need to do things differently. And it starts with you. It starts with you independently calling to presence, balance and harmony within your own intelligence, within your own system, within your own complicated drama, so that you can then start to speak more potently and with more magnetic resonance. And so before I go too much further, I want to acknowledge that I'm on Bundjalung land, so I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, recognising that sovereignty was never ceded and that I'm an Anglo-Celtic woman who was born on Kaurna country, and I'm privileged to call this land my home today. It feels so good to say that. I'm also really grateful to the technologies that are here in this particular land grid. I'm reflective of how unique this area is, placed to hold a sensitive energy being like me. There really is a community spirit here that is unique and that is fundamentally well, because it does embrace diversity and it is open to taking steps towards change. It is not an area that is ambivalent towards change and that is simply following the code that has been given by our origins, by our records, our historical records. And instead, we're reaching for a new community, a new connection to the earth and to the land. And, you know, Spirit is bringing me back to this energy forecast. We're talking about the lunar cycle here. And there's a permaculture college that's attached to this gardens, and I just happened to magically walk through the permaculture gardens, and a lot of the structures and systems there are designed to honour the lunar cycles and the natural cycle of life. And so coming here has really given me that remembering that communities built on cyclic origins and nature, and remembering how to live in tandem with the earth can thrive and can provide for more of us. I say more of us because not everybody will be satiated by what it is that I'm suggesting, and maybe that's healthy. I think that that's probably healthy. So lunar cycle, this is to cover the period between the 10th of March, which is a new moon in Pisces. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. We're journeying into the apex of the full moon, which will happen on the 25th of March here in Australia. So the times might be slightly different, either a day before or after, depending on where you're at. But the full moon is in Libra on the 25th of March, and it the cycle ends on the 9th of April. And that cycle restarts a new moon cycle in Aries, fire sign. And so looking at that moon cycle, within that moon cycle, there are a number of quite key points. The most main one is perhaps the equinoxes. And when I say equinoxes, there is one equinox, but it impacts the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere slightly different, because we are in different phases of the earth, obviously. So in the northern hemisphere, we have an equinox that's called Ostara. Ostara, of course, sounds like Easter, and that's because Ostara did become Easter. And it is around the Easter time period, of course it is. This year, the Easter or Ostara portal starts on the 20th of March. Here in Australia, we're in the opposite cycle, because obviously we're travelling from summer into winter instead of winter into summer. And so instead of the spring equinox, which is what Ostara is about, new life, new beginnings, new light, the planting of seeds in order to grow and bloom into summer, we're in the opposite. We're starting to head into fall or autumn, the autumnal equinox on the 20th of March. And that is called Mabon in the Celtic tradition. And so Mabon is a time period where the weather starts to get cooler. The energy is very much about slowing down and starting to drop back into a little bit more normal. And when I say that, that's also because the autumnal equinox also tends to represent the end of summer, the time period where we're no longer in, singlets and warm weather, and instead we're starting to get a little bit more cooler in the evenings and shorter days. And so when we talk about the equinoxes, people often, if you are still living your 9 to 5 Monday to Friday lifestyle in office buildings, you may feel like this doesn't impact you much. And I'm going to argue that, but the reason why it might not impact you much is because if you're inside with fluorescent lighting or with an ambience inside that basically changes the weather for you, and your system is in that environment, then you may not notice the transitions quite like someone like me who doesn't work in an office environment and instead lives in a cabin in a rainforest surrounded by an amazing lush landscape of diversity, including a lot of insects that like to bite Dana's legs. No end of that drama, but anyway, we do love living there. And so during that period of time, the equinox traditionally is where we have equal amounts of day and night. So we've gone from, in the southern hemisphere, a lot of light starting to incrementally get less light. And in the northern hemisphere, you'll have the opposite effect. So the daylight will start a little bit earlier every day until, of course, it heads into the summer solstice, which is when you have the longest day, and we will have then the winter solstice, which is the shortest day and the longest night. So these energies, they really do impact you. They should impact you. They are a part of our natural cycles. They are the way that your body embodies life, and being in these cycles actually helps. They help us regulate hormones. They help us keep connected to the earth and to our communities. And they also help us to eat appropriately for our body systems. And this technology is so unfortunately disregarded in most of our modern society. So that's what the equinoxes are about. And the other important thing that you will notice is, there's one more thing that I forget. Oh yeah, the eclipses. I did that last time. So the other thing that's going to happen during this cycle is that we're also going to start what's called an eclipse season, which eclipse season basically means that at the full moon or the new moon, there may be an eclipse that goes on for either a full moon, full moon, or a new moon, full moon, new moon. And so the full moon is a solar eclipse on the 25th of March, and a lunar eclipse is associated with the new moon on the 9th of April. And so the significance of the eclipses is kind of similar to the equinoxes, but often during eclipses, what you might think you see often offers you an inversion of what's actually true. And so eclipses for some people can be quite destabilizing, but of course the gift, because always there's a gift in these particular energetic movements, is if you're in contact with yourself and soul in deep reverence to the earth and your connection to it, you can start the process of acclimatizing to these flips to your advantage. And this is where most spirituality gets lost. Most spirituality is about celebration, and it's about calling to the awareness of these holidays and celebrations, but not the impact of them on your system. And if you've never danced with the awareness of impact and how these energetics impact your system, I invite you, or challenge if that's your personality, to maybe record, take notice of how your energy moves through you across this period of time. Notice how your mind talks, notice how your emotional landscape experiences, and how your psychic energy is navigating reality. I say that specifically because the psychic energy really is the dance between head and heart, so your feeling, sense, and your illusion in your mind. It often involves a landscape that is about you, nearly always about you, but also entangles you with the perspective of what you see in the extraneous world, in the external system that you are in place of, or in center of. And so the dance between the two, your internal perspective and the external reality, or how you're mapping it, often is how the psychic landscape evolves and how it is intelligence working through you. And when you have a proper practice to connect in with self and soul, to recognize how you're doing with your life and what conversations are richly moving through you, then you are taking advantage of the intelligence that you are to learn more about yourself, the human condition, your ancestral line, what you've inherited, and you can be better at life. You can make yourself more available for the relationships that you deeply crave. You can enhance your magnetism to call to you things that are of impact. And this is the lesson, so Spirit is just saying that a lot of the education that we offer is really about helping you with this conversation. A lot of the offerings that I do online is about re-educating your energy system so that you start to see through your true eyes, your real, authentic sight, your psychic landscape, and you just get better at understanding why certain things come to you. Sometimes you'll get forethought that will help you understand when things are coming to you before they're there. And often you will have a fair sense of which pathway to take moving forwards, because you're making better decisions towards where health and wellness might lie for you, where love lies for you. And so if you're interested in tuning into any of my products and services, you can visit my website, which is www.dana-spirit-butterfly, that's DANA spiritbutterfly.com. And I invite you to have a look at what is there. I have a couple of events coming up, particularly if you're here based in the Northern Rivers. With the Byron Community College, I have 2 workshops coming up. One is on the 23rd of March, which is on communing with ancestors. And the one on the 6th of April is about reading psychic energy. I'm also going to be a part of the Healing Temple at Embodying Psychadelia Festival, which will be on the 15th, 16th and 17th of March. And so I'll add some links to this video so that if you feel curious, use your curiosity muscle. It's a really great spiritual tool, intuitive muscle. If you want to follow that up, you can. You're welcome to. Otherwise, Spirit and I are always in concert with the collective field and in some grasp of what's going on with the landscapes that impact you. If you would like a one-on-one session, then please find yourself to my website and click my book now button. Otherwise, of course, I have the standard social medias, and also I'm now on Patreon, which is where I have some free tools there, but also I have a couple of tiers that offer guided programs to help you with your own intrinsic wisdom, and through that we can communicate a lot more fully. So Dana Spirit Butterfly, Dana Parker, have a great month. This month really will be about getting back to earth and getting back to grounded presence and allowing yourself to witness what is moving through you. Doing that during this period of time will educate your system so that as you move forwards in the month that follows, you'll be better placed to be able to manage your energy and make decisions that are supportive and loving for you personally. So with that, all the best. Have a great rest of your month. Take care, and we will see you next time. All right, bye loves. See you.